Okay, time for some market analysis. What we're looking at in the Qs, so the Nasdaq, and also the SPY, so the S&P. So to get straight into it, we will be starting over on TradingView just to get some of the closest anchored VWAPs. So key resistance as of right now on the Qs is going to be $367.50. Again, this is an anchored VWAP from that recent high that we created near coming into the end of September. Now that's the top range resistance, and this will be key when we go over the Nasdaq Futures. And on the support side, we have quite far off from where we currently are, but 344. Now, to cover this with also some standard deviations, which will just give us some added layers of support, we can see that kind of within that range, we do have a level at $357. Really not focusing too much on that now. As you can kind of see, yes, it was significant, but we have been chopping on the level too much. So now if we're looking at standard deviations, the main level we're looking at is at 346. So that's going to be that key support, and again that lines up quite close with this deviation, which is at 344. So that's going to be our support side. Again, resistance mainly only looking at the anchored VWAP, so again talking about that 367.50 level. So that's what we're looking at on the Qs. Again, if we break out, do have quite a lot of upside room to continue to run. Again, if we go to the downside, we have a lot more supports, which is going to be the kind of 330, 316s, but we'll cover them if we start to break out. Now to quickly then cover the Nasdaq Futures as well. This one is, and when we're using the anchored VWAPs, I actually tend to prefer to be using the futures just because they seem to be a bit more accurate. And we do kind of get cleaner tests of levels, as you can kind of see. It just seems to work a lot more cleaner on the future side. Now, as of right now, yesterday or Friday, we did hit onto the support. We then also hit into the resistance, and you kind of see we're trading within this range of that support and resistance. And we can kind of see that this is really kind of war news, hasn't actually pushed it out. It kind of just kept us in this range. So once we kind of break out of here, that's when we expect to kind of see this bigger move happening. Again, if we push to the upside, first target around 15,400, and if we go to the downside, we'll be targeting around 14,325. So that could be looking quite good on the futures. And again, like we said, we will cover the futures on the deviation perspective as well, just so you know where the key levels are on this. So again, we do have that same one like we looked at on the Qs, because again, they do trade relatively similar. We're kind of ignoring that one though, just because again, we've hit it quite a lot of times. So it's more paying attention to the support side, which would be 4,300. And if we had quite a long or strong move to the downside, then we're looking at kind of 3,850. But again, that is quite a move. So kind of focusing on those high levels as of right now. Now then, to move over to more the S&P, we'll be starting off with the SPY, and then we'll move over to the futures. So on the SPY, what we can see, we're kind of seeing what we saw on the Nasdaq Futures, kind of bouncing between both a support and a resistance. Now, why is this resistance in pink? That's because this was once a support, and again, it's anchored from this low over here, and has now turned into a resistance. That's why we kind of have a different color, just so you know, and it's clearer to understand. So as of right now, again, we're looking at that same kind of thing. We'd be looking for a break below this support and then targeting the anchor VWAP below. And again, if we're looking at the upside, considering how close this level is, that would kind of be a day trade pullback we would look at. But from a swing perspective, we would want to wait until kind of both of those are cleared, until we kind of come into this anchored VWAP, which is again is at 442, before we start looking to trade that more short bias. Again, we can be looking at the 434, but that's more of a day trade level, and would probably just target right below at the 43150, which again would be that kind of previous support, which has now turned into a resistance. Again, just to note, and what is really key on SPY, because we did hit this recently, is going to be its year-to-date anchored VWAP. We can see that we did actually hit this for the first time around the 4th. Again, came into here, you had strong buying pressure as to be expected. We retested it again. I think this was on the non-farms numbers, and you can see it was relatively bad news, came down, got bought up into there, and then we flew up again, holding this support. So this is going to be that key level on SPY. If we come back down to here, and again, that is $419.50. If we're pushing to the upside, obviously we had the anchored VWAPs we talked about, and then you also have the 432, which is our first deviation on the 6 month to also be paying attention to. Now, lastly, we will go over the S&P Futures again. Obviously, the futures and the ETFs are always going to be relatively similar, but it's more ideally paying attention to both of these when we trade. And then whatever one's coming into that level first is the one we should probably be paying more attention to, just to start seeing how it reacts. So just need to get that to work. There we go. So again, not as clean on this one, but we do have our support here. And then again, that's at 4,278. As of right now, we're still within this range, like we've seen on the Qs, the Nasdaq Futures and the SPY. No different from that. So we still need to kind of wait for that break. But as of right now, we're holding the support. We're targeting, I guess, at the upside resistance, which is kind of around 4,395. If we break that, we can then target the above anchored VWAP, which would be 4,477. Now, the downside is going to be where more of these significant and more levels in general there are to be paying attention to. So if we come down to the lower levels from the anchored VWAP perspective, we have 4,113, and then quite far off from current price, but we do have $3,916. Now, again, just to finish off, we will go over the futures just to make it all clear. And again, where is our key levels? So we can see we have our anchored VWAP quite close to where we were before. Didn't quite hit it like we did on the SPY. And again, that's why we like to pay attention to both SPY and the ES futures. So we can kind of see if one's coming in just before, that's probably the one we want to be paying attention to when we're looking to get the trades in. So again, that support is going to be 4,232. Right below it, we also have another key support at 4,228, which is going to be that second deviation on the 6 month, so it would be another strong level to be paying attention to. So as of right now, we are holding our strong supports, even when we were coming into data. Again, we had the non-farms, many more jobs than expected, and again, that's why we kind of sold off. We're holding these levels are very strong, so if we do come back down to test it, we will be looking to see if it can hold, and if it can, again, kind of looking for that another strong reaction. But if we do finally crack this, that could be quite a concerning sign. And again, that's why we went through the anchor VWAP levels to be paying attention to for some potential day trade or even kind of short-term swing trade levels to play some bounces.